The Grizz defense is the heart and soul of the team. While the offense has been slow due to injury, the defense has dominated, powering the Grizzlies to 6 straight wins. Now they're ready for the ultimate test, Jimmy Blanchard and the Portland State offense. After cruising through their first 6 games, the Vikings were embarrassed last week by Weber State. The Grizz defense can smell blood. If they get their claws into Mr. Blanchard, it's game over for the Vikings.
5, 4, 1.
Welcome to Hillsboro Stadium in Hillsboro, Oregon for the matchup of the year in the Big Sky Conference. The 4th-ranked Montana Grizzlies taking on the 8th-ranked Portland State Vikings. Hello, I'm Grayson Davis for Montana's news station, joined by Bob Hermes. And Bob, it's finally here. This is the game folks have been waiting for. It's been circled on their calendars for over a year because more than likely, whoever wins this game today will go on to win the Big Sky Conference Championship. But there have been a couple of surprises coming into the game. Portland State already has a conference loss. They were blown out last week, 41-9 by Weber State. And for the Grizzlies, the story all year long has been their injuries. We'll update throughout the game. However, this is really a matchup of strengths. Portland State's offense versus the Montana defense.
That's exactly right, and the word run comes into play on both sides for Montana. The Grizzly coaches feel they must stop the run of Charles Dunn, an excellent running.
Tonight's Big Sky Conference football game is brought to you by Lucky Lil's and Magic Diamond Casinos, a division of Town Pump across Montana. And the Montana Wood Products Association, supporting healthy forests and healthy communities.
We're just about ready for the kickoff here in Hillsboro, Oregon. A very windy, blustery day in Oregon. As you take a look at the flags there, you can see they're being blown stiff. The winds out of the southwest, 20 to 35 miles per hour. Temperature 51, light to moderate rain, but that could increase throughout the day, and that could play a huge factor in today's game. Dan France getting ready to kick it off. Portland State won the coin toss and deferred, so the Grizzlies will start with the ball. That one goes out of the end zone, helped out by the wind there, so the Grizz will start their first possession at the 20-yard line. And needless to say, this is absolutely a monster game for both teams. Number 1 and 2 in the conference. As we take a look at the starters, John Edwards getting the start. Johansi Humphrey starting a running back. Okers, Ferris, Hancock, and Molden rounding out the receivers. Pelk, Skinner, Thusen, Decker, and Kamaloa in on the offensive line, where they have been getting healthier, and we could see a few more guys play on the offensive line today. First play for the Grizz. They show pass. Edwards can't find anything. He's going to run it. He's got some room, gets a block. He gets out of bounds after a 10-yard gain. Looks like he's going to have the first down. Taking a look at the Portland State defensive starters, D'Angelo Hunter, Ransom, Ricketts, and Kane on the front. Then Hampton, Redamosa, and Granderson in the backfield. Floyd, Joyner, Morse, and Donnerberg. Donnerberg, the leading tackler for the Portland State Vikings, and the defense has had a hard time this year stopping people, particularly last week where Weber State racked up the yards and the points, beating Portland State 41-9. Brought up a first down and 10. Edwards flares one out to Tanner Hancock, who gets a block, gets some yards, about 6 yards on the play. That should bring up a second down and 4 for the Grizzlies.
It's interesting, Montana talked about running the ball effectively, and they come out with the first 2 plays throwing. That's not uncommon where a team will kind of go counter to what the defense is thinking, but you will see them go to the run here shortly. Now it is second and about 3 or 4.
Second down and 3 from their own 38-yard line. Johansi Humphrey is in the backfield. He gets the start. His hamstring has been bothering him the last few weeks. He gets the carry, squirts through the line. There's a flag down. Looks like he's going to be about a yard short of the first down, but there is a flag down on the play.
Number 46, Brent Donnerberg, and on the stop, penalty marker on the play.
It's in the area holding, but they're talking about it a little bit here.
It's a face mask on Portland State. So that's going to give the Grizzlies the first down and more.
Probably an inadvertent type.
Personal foul, grabbing the face mask on the defense. 15-yard penalty from the end of the run, first down.
Oh, it's a 15-yard penalty. I don't believe it was on Johansi Humphrey. As we take a look at the replay, maybe we can spot it here.
Nice, yeah, there you can see it just hidden behind the goalpost, but you see his head delayed and got a pretty good hold of that face mask.
The ruling on that is they did affect the play. Johansi Humphrey would have been able to get through that hole a little quicker, maybe get some more yards. So 15 yards on the play, and the Grizzlies move into Vikings territory on their 42-yard line. Edwards to throw again. Finds Atu Molden. He's got a gain of 7, maybe 8. And we talked about it earlier. The coaches had been preach and run throughout the week, but they come out firing early.
And again, you'll see that throughout the day, but here's a high percentage pass. Just a little sideline route to Molden, who's a great receiver. Gets out of bounds and picks up about 7-8 yards.
Now the offensive line for the Grizzlies getting healthier. Thatcher Zalay, who was out last week, he is in there at the guard spot. Brings up second down and 2. They give it to Yo, who initially is stopped behind the line, but his second effort gets him over the marker. That'll give him a first down. And Yo, you can see he's fired up. He's just glad to be playing again.
You know, it's a sight for sore eyes, at least for Montana fans, to see him run. They've not had this kind of threat for a few weeks. He hits the hole, nothing there, and look at him spin and keep his balance. That is an awesome job on his part to get the first down.
He was hit initially by George Jordan, who was unable to wrap Yo up in that hamstring. Holding up okay so far. First down and 10. Now at Portland State's 30-yard line, the Grizzlies on the move. Their first possession of the ballgame. Tanner Hancock in motion. Ben Drinkwalter in the game now. But they throw it out to Tanner Hancock. Not a whole lot there. He's going to get about a yard on the play. Tackled by George Jordan.
Not a bad play, a little play action that time, and they kind of fake away from the play and come underneath with the relief valve, but Portland State did a nice job covering that.
Johansi Humphrey comes back into the game as we take a look at the replay.
You can see him slide underneath, but nice job by the linebacker to play the area and not go with the first fake.
Pressure put on by D'Angelo Hunter. Brings up second down and 9 from the 29-yard line. Some movement by Portland State early. I believe this is going to be an offsides call. He made contact with the offensive lineman.
Last week, John Edwards did a great job on the hard count. They had a record number of turnovers on the defensive side, and that's what that was there. Quarterback hut, and gets the defensive lineman to react to that.
So that's going to give them 5 more yards.
Snap, offside on the defense. 5-yard penalty, still second down.
I think Northern Arizona had 9 offsides last week against Montana just for that kind of play. That's an awesome amount of offsides that a quarterback can, make happen with just his voice.
So now second down and 4 from the 24-yard line. Edwards hands it off to Yo Humphrey. He's got a little bit of a hole, breaks it to the outside. He's got a lot of room out there. Down to the 4-yard line. Big run for Johansi Humphrey. And the Grizzlies sitting pretty inside the 5-yard line of the Vikings.
Well, we talked a lot about Charles Dunn. We haven't seen Yo for a few weeks, but boy, is this a nice run. Comes in, everything's blocked, he kicks it outside. Watch him change hands here. Puts the ball on the outside, a sign of a great running back. Gets it down all the way inside the 5-yard line.
Now this is where the Grizzlies need to take advantage. Last week, 3 turnovers within the red zone. They need to clean those up against Portland State. Chance here to get into the end zone. First down and goal from the 2-yard line. They give it to Yo. Yo trying to hammer his way in. Doesn't look like he's going to make it. The line trying to help him out. Looks like he's going to be down at the 1-yard line. You see big John Skinner, one of those young offensive linemen, getting some playing time for the Grizzlies.
Little line surge. They did power it forward and got some positive yard out of really nothing initially.
So that now brings up second down and goal from the 1. Grizzlies need to pound it in here. Edwards takes it himself on the sneak. No signal yet.
Well, you see the line judges have not given him a touchdown. I don't think they will here. They're calling for third down.
Calling him short just by a few inches. So it is going to bring up a third down play. So we take another look at it.
That was very close. Got to tuck it inside. The ball's on about the 1 inch line here.
So now 3rd and goal from the 1. The crowd getting fired up. A lot of Grizz fans made their way to the game enduring some cold, windy conditions. Edwards takes it into the end zone for the Montana touchdown, and their first drive going into the wind. Nice combination of run and pass, and they're taking advantage within the red zone, which is their problem last week.
You know, they definitely wanted to work on that. I think the whole key to this drive has been Johansi. He just has done things that they haven't been able to do in a couple weeks, and excellent drive by Montana, the opening kickoff.
So that makes it 6-0. Chris Snyder now in for the point after. It is good, right down the middle. And it is 7-0 Grizzlies. An impressive start for John Edwards, Johansi Humphrey, and the rest of the offense as the Grizzlies get on the board on their first possession. And they lead 7-0. Portland State about to get the ball for their first possession. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The Grizzlies take advantage on their first possession. They go 80 yards in 10 plays, capped off by John Edwards' 1-yard sneak. It took 3 minutes and 26 seconds, and the Grizzlies are on top of Portland State by a score of 7-0. And they really looked solid on that first drive.
Well, it's so important when you can be away from home in a hostile environment and take your opening kickoff. A lot of times you just want to get a couple first downs. They actually drove the ball in and scored. That is just an awesome opening for a visiting team.
Snyder kicking off now into the wind, keeps it low. This one very returnable, taken by our Schwante Bryant. He gets a crease, moving up the field. Great return as he's able to make his way out to the 37-yard line. Good field position for Portland State as we take a look at their starters on offense. Jimmy Blanchard, the great quarterback. Charles Dunn, Steve Jakubowski, Cam Camillo, Terry Charles, watch out for him, and Bryant, the wide receivers. Andreas, Leisure, Hayes, Tuatelli, and Widger, the offensive line. And of course, the main culprits last year, Jimmy Blanchard throwing to Terry Charles, who is at the bottom of your screen, number 7. He's 6'4", and that height really gave the defensive backs for the Grizz problems last year. Blanchard's going to throw, little screen pass to Bryant. Not a whole lot there, only about 2 yards. Tackle made by Andy Pedic. Taking a look at the Grizz defense, Justin Brannon in for the injured Justin Klein, Kurt Coulter, Tyler Martin, Andy Pedic, DeCoit, Boomer, and Steinow, the linebackers, all of them having great seasons. And in the secondary, Coleman, Parker, Trey Young, and Vince Huntsberger. And the defense has performed very well so far for the Grizzlies this year. 2nd down and 7 from their own 40-yard line for the Vikings. Blanchard gives it to Dunn. He's got some room. Finally gets stacked up. Looks like he's going to be about a yard short of the first down.
That's their power. Again, we talked about Charles Dunn is very quick. He's a super athlete. Gets it outside. Montana trying to just deny him the ability to cut back and force him to the sidelines and get him out of bounds.
Forced out of bounds by Vince Huntsberger, who is a terrific run-stopping safety. He's a phenomenal all-around player. The Big Sky Conference Defensive Player of the Year last year, but particularly good against the run. 3rd and 1 now on their own 46. Andy Pedic jumping off sides, and I think they caught the Grizzlies this time on the hard count.
Well, Andy's pointing to the offensive side. We'll see what the officials decide.
And it is indeed against the Grizzlies.
Andy's very quick defensive tackle.
Before the snap, offside, on the defense, 5-yard penalty, makes first down.
He does excellent job getting off the ball, and he's really his strength is his quickness. That time they caught him a little bit.
So that gives Portland State the first down, also moves them into Grizzly territory at the Grizzlies' 48-yard line. Defense trying to hold the Vikings and maintain that 7-0 lead. Blanchard back to throw. Going for Terry Charles. He's got him. Charles breaks some tackles, works his way down the sidelines, and he is inside the 15-yard line of the Grizzlies.
You know, it's a little early yet, Grayson, but this started to look a little bit like last year when we came over and did the game. Both teams scored. I remember at the end of the first quarter, I think it was 21-21. Portland not sitting down and running the ball themselves. They're going outside trying to make things happen. Excellent play.
Terry Charles has quite a bit of size on the defensive backs for the Grizzlies, as he showed there, breaking the tackle of both Damon Parker and Trey Young. And now the Vikings marching downfield. 1st and 10 from the 13-yard line of the Grizzlies. Blanchard to throw again. Little fade pattern for the end zone. Nowhere close. Terry Charles double covered that time, and we can expect to see a lot of that on number 7.
I think they're going to do that on both sides of the field. They're going to double both wide receivers, both on the left and right side, play kind of an inside-out defense, meaning that if the ball's underthrown, there'll be a player underneath and somebody on the top, which is what you saw there.
Now again, the wind is a huge factor in this game. Portland State going into the wind. That fade pattern, that's one where the ball can get caught up in the wind a little bit, maybe pushed it a little further than Jimmy Blanchard wanted to put it in the end zone, way out of the reach of Terry Charles. 2nd down and 10 now from the 13-yard line of the Grizzlies. Blanchard drops back, looking to throw. They bring the blitz. He's able to move away, swings it out to Dunn, who is unable to catch it. Takes a big hit by Matt Steinow, separates Charles Dunn from the ball.
Steinow, give him a nice credit on that. Dunn was kind of on a little swing pattern, actually relief valve, and the hit knocked the ball loose.
There may be a penalty on the play. There is. It's a hold against Portland State, so that's going to back up the Vikings.
Montana's thinking about declining this because it'd be 3rd down if they could decline it here.
See Andy Pedic being held right there by number 76, Chris Widger. That's a matchup to look for all day because Andy Pedic's had a fabulous year.
On the offense, 10-yard penalty from the previous spot, replay 2nd down.
They accept the penalty, brings up 2nd down and 20 now. Four wide receivers for the Vikings. Blanchard to throw. Has time. Going to the corner to Schwande Bryant. Both guys come down with it, but the offensive player gets possession, so that is down at the 1-yard line. Vince Huntsberger in on the play.
That is the ruling. If it's dual possession, it stays with the offense. That's exactly what happened. They did not have double coverage that time, which they talked about doing on the outside. You can see the ball in the air, and they both really do come down with it. Excellent coverage. A nice catch, but then they kind of wrap around it, and they both fight for it and both retain possession, so Portland gets the ball 1st down.
Brings up 1st down and goal from the 2. The give is to Dunn. He gets into the end zone, and just like that, we've got a tie ball game. 7-7 as Portland State able to move the ball on their first possession against that Grizzly defense.
Well, they got the touchdown by running it over the left side, and of course, Dunn being as strong as he is, that fullback leading him through a nice little isolation over the tackle.
Dan France in to attempt the extra point. High snap. They get it down and in. No problem, right down the middle. So Portland State able to answer the first drive by the Grizzlies. And this game is now tied 7-7. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Portland State answers the drive by the Montana Grizzlies. They go 62 yards in 6 plays, capped off by Charles Dunn, 1-yard touchdown run. It took 1 minute and 57 seconds, and we're all tied up at 7 apiece. Getting ready for the kickoff. France kicking it deep. Atu Molden's going to down it in the end zone, so the Grizzlies will start from their own 20-yard line. Jimmy Blanchard went 3 for 5, 59 yards on that drive, and like you said, it looked reminiscent to last year's game. That drive certainly did.
I don't think either coaching staff wants to get into another shootout like last year. It was almost ridiculous the way both offenses ran up and down the field. I don't think that'll continue throughout the day. I'd be awful surprised if it did. You can see Drew Miller there as the Grizzlies took the field on offense, egging on John Edwards to help him out a little bit.
So the Grizzlies, on their second possession, hand it off to Yo Humphrey, goes up the middle. Good gain, about 4 yards on the play.
I think Coach Glenn would be happy with that as a starting point to keep the clock running a little bit and establish a run.
So you take a look there, Grizzly fans. Good news in the Big Sky Conference Soccer Championship. The Montana Grizzlies repeat as the soccer champions, beating Northern Arizona 1-0, so they will now host a game against the Southland Conference champion. They will host that game in Missoula for a spot in the NCAA tournament. 2nd down and 6. John Edwards swings it out to Jimmy Ferris. That one is absolutely snuffed out from the beginning, though, by Rashad Floyd. That's a loss on the play.
Well, that was a screen by Montana, one of their wide receiver screens that they've kind of patented over the years. But you can see that Portland State did an excellent job diagnosing that. The way you beat a screen is play man on the wide receiver and have your lineman come back to the ball. They did a great job on that.
That brings up a 3rd down and 9, 8-12 left in the first quarter. 4 wide receivers. Edwards goes back, gets pressured, able to get away from it. Still pressured, looking for something, unable to get anything, runs out of bounds. Gains maybe a yard on the play, but still well short of the 1st down, and the Grizzlies are going to have to punt.
Billy Cockhill talked a little bit about Portland's defense. This time they rushed 3 people and kind of let everybody back, 8 people to defend pass. Thus, John has no one to throw to, and he has to try to make something happen. Actually, Montana expected that. That's the way they defense him today, so we'll see if they can solve that.
D'Angelo Hunter putting the pressure on John Edwards. The punt here by Mike Reedy being taken by Rashad Floyd. Fair catch at the 45-yard line. So right now the Vikings, their strategy is working out for them. They deferred, and they've got the win at their backs, and right now they're winning the field position game.
Yeah, and the wind is so strong that it's really an advantage to the team that's heading to the left part of your screen as you look at it, because I would say it's at least 30 miles an hour gusts.
So 1st down and 10 for the Vikings. Terry Charles to the top of your screen. Blanchard hands it off to Charles Dunn. He's got some room up the middle. Good gain, about 5, maybe 6 yards on the play.
Well, you talk a lot about Dunn, but those linemen for the Vikings doing a very nice job up front. Watching them a little bit on the field before. Those are very strong, agile linemen. They did a nice job opening that hole.
The gain 5 yards will bring up a 2nd down and 5. 3 wide receivers to the top of your screen. Terry Charles isolated on Calvin Coleman. Blanchard changing the play. Gives it to Dunn again. This one's bottled up. Gets a yard, maybe 2 at the most. Still well short of the 1st down. It's going to bring up a 3rd down and 3.
See, that time, as you said, they changed the play. I think it was pass. Montana had everybody up front, so he changes it to run. There was covered, and thus not much gain on that play. That one helped for the Grizzlies on defense.
The last couple of years, the Grizz defense has been able to pretty much contain Charles Dunn, holding him to less than 80 yards. Brings up a 3rd down and 4. Big play here for the Grizz defense. Blanchard back to throw, being blitzed, gets pressured, able to get away from it. He's got time as he rolls out, going down the field, falls incomplete. Going for his open receiver, Antonio Jackson. It goes through his hands and incomplete.
Blanchard is a really good quarterback. He did an excellent job last year. Montana this time with a big blitz up the middle there. Kind of live and die off their zone blitzes, and Jimmy feels the pressure, rolls out right away. He almost got sacked, and again, it's fun to watch him. He's a very talented quarterback and I'd be surprised if the pros don't give him a good look.
So that's going to bring up a 4th and 4 now. So after both teams were able to drive on their first possession and get touchdowns, the defense have stepped up. High snap. France back to punt. Into the wind, just pooches this one. And it goes into the end zone. So the Grizzlies will start out from their own 20-yard line. We're going to take a break right now. Montana and Portland State tied up at 7. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We are midway through the first quarter, tied up at 7 apiece. The Grizzlies getting ready for their 3rd possession of the ball game. As they come back out onto the field, Johansi Humphrey still in at tailback. He has been pretty effective thus far.
Looks really good back there, and I'm sure Coach Glenn happy that he's able to bring him back.
They give it to Yo, finding a crease. Gets 4, almost 5 yards. And you know that Joe Glenn, especially here in the first quarter when you're going into the wind, would like to maybe chew up that clock and run a little bit.
Well, remember, that was their game plan all along, is to run the ball. And here, this is where Yo is so effective. He finds the hole, and it doesn't look like he got much on the play, but heck, he picks up 5 yards.
Brings up 2nd down and 5 from their own 25-yard line. Edwards to throw this time. All kinds of protection. Finding Spencer Frederick, his big tight end, out to the 45-yard line.
That time the Vikings kind of playing soft in a little zone, and Frederick does a nice job to find the kind of the soft area there. He kind of sits down and waits for John. John has done an awesome job finding his receivers that are open.
There was a flag on the play, however. So this one will come back.
Holding on the offense. 10-yard penalty from the previous spot. Replay 2nd down.
And that is a big penalty. It looked like the Grizzlies were moving. As we take another look at it, you can see right there, it's Matt Thusen out against Brad Ransom. Holds him just a little bit, and that negates the play. And so the Grizzlies face a 2nd down and 15. Edwards to throw, all kinds of time. Finds the same guy. Finds Spencer Frederick again. Short of the 1st down by about 4 yards, but still gets a big chunk back.
It was the same play, Grayson. He dropped back, and Spencer kind of ran to the same area, and John did almost a carbon copy of the play before.
See Frederick going down there, so it brings up a 3rd down and 4 from the 26-yard line. This is where John Edwards can be a bit of a threat because he does have the ability to run. 4 wide receivers set now. Edwards to throw. Finds Michael Westbrook, who gets just enough for the 1st down. And it doesn't seem like the wind is bothering John Edwards much throwing into it.
Well, he throws such a quick ball. He has a very strong arm, and he does the really smart thing here. He sees his receivers open, and he gets rid of it quick. There was defenders in the area, but he knew he had the 1st down.
So that gives the Grizzlies a 1st down from Portland State's 32-yard line. 4:33 left in the first quarter. Tied up at 7. Edwards hands off to Yo. There's a flag on the play. It's going to be offsides on the defense. Yo only gets a yard, but it's not going to make any difference.
Again, I think it's that hard count that was so successful last week against NAU from John, and I have a feeling that's what they're going to call again.
That is the indication. Offsides on the defense.
You know, it really drives you crazy as a coach and a defensive player when you make a mistake like that because it's just silly.
On the defense, 5-yard penalty. First replay.
I mean, nobody's up front hitting you. It's not a physical thing. It's just a mental thing, and it drives you crazy when you're on that side that causes it to happen.
when you're playing against a team with a backup quarterback, a guy who's less experienced. To let him have a first down and 5 sure takes a lot of pressure off of him. 4 wide receivers now. They hand it off to Yo, looking for a crease. Not a whole lot there, only a couple of yards. It's going to bring up second down and about 3. And every time you see Johansi Humphrey come up off the carpet, you kind of hold your breath a little bit, hoping that he stays healthy. He still looks good, a lot of jump in his step.
Yeah, he's got that hamstring, and I think it was his right one that he injured, but last week Coach Glenn mentioned that he just didn't have the ability to push off his leg when he planted, but it looks like he's able to do that today, and he looks 100%.
7 carries for 43 yards, so a great start to his day. Second down and 2 now for the Grizzlies. Edwards may have gotten them again. Again, they jump off sides. Got a free play for Yo, who's still moving up the field, gets the first down. And it looks like John Edwards is just right now toying with the Portland State defense.
Well, one of the best pro quarterbacks I ever saw with that hard count, of course, was John Elway, and I think John Edwards is right there. And again, just kind of a hut. And it's a little thing, but it sure helps your team when you can get 5 free ones.
They decline it. What happens so often, you see it all the time, when a defense gets caught like that, they kind of stop playing there for a second. Johansi Humphrey never stopped playing, bounces off the tackle, and then able to get the first down on his own.
Yeah, the offense has the option to take the play or take the penalty, and of course, if he'd have scored a touchdown, he'd have taken that as well.
Brings up first down and 10 now from their own 45-yard line. Yo with the carry, going up the middle, nothing there, only about a yard on the play. Stopped there by number 50, Ruben Ricketts, the defensive tackle.
Not that much that time, and Yo's breathing heavy right now, so they might want to go away from him a little bit and spread it around.
Well, he hasn't played in several weeks because of that hamstring injury, which happened against Eastern Washington. But they're certainly giving him the ball. That's his 8th carry already. Edwards, this time dropping back, little screen play to Yo. He's got some blocking out in front of him. And he's going to have the first down as Yo continues to be a huge part of the offense.
He's just doing an excellent job. He actually raised his hand. He needs a break that time. He's taking himself out. But as you mentioned, a nice little screen over the top. He does a nice job of kicking it outside and gets a first down.
So in for Humphrey now is Ben Drinkwalter, who's maybe not as shifty as Humphrey, but definitely more of a power back. He gets his weight behind his pads, and he can bring a load. He is now in, as you take a good look at him there, in the backfield for the Grizzlies on a first down and 10 from Portland State's 44-yard line. They hand it to him. He's got some room. There's a flag down. He hurdles the bench, so Ben's feeling all right. But there is a flag down on this play. I think it's coming back.
I do too. I think it's holding, but a nice call. A little draw play that time. Fake the pass and give it to Ben up the middle. So the penalties both going both ways.
Was a hold as Ben Drinkwalter had plenty of room to run. So we take another look.
You know, usually on a draw play, you don't have a lot of holding, but actually you can see it on 72.
10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. Replay first down.
Well, it was tough. Those were both very close. Both Matt Thusen and Dylan McFarland were on the verge, if not holding. So close call there.
I think officials try to establish what they're going to let go early in a game. A good official does. And I don't think, it is a nice time to make that call now and get the players to know what you're going to expect. So late in the game, you don't, make a difference in who wins or loses.
Costly penalty moves the Grizzlies back to the 42-yard line as there's a stop and play. And the officials are discussing something down there. Not exactly sure what this is. Well, apparently something wasn't said or something wasn't ready, perhaps the chains. Still, though, it brings up a first down and 24 now from their own 42-yard line. Edwards back to pass. He's going deep to Michael Westbrook, who's unable to bring it in. So they went for the whole 24 right there on the first play.
Well, Westbrook's a good receiver. Him and Jimmy Ferris rotate a little bit. That time they went down the sideline, just kind of a little streak pattern, but wasn't there.
So we take another look at it.
Yeah, and again, just a little outside catch and the ball a little bit overthrown. I would have to think the wind has something to do with this ball. He's throwing into the wind, and of course that's going to make it float a little bit.
That's his first incompletion on the day. He's 7 of 8 for 40 yards as they now hand it off to Yo. Gets a decent chunk of it back, but it's still going to bring up third and very long for the Grizzlies.
Well, in the first quarter, Yo has been the player of the game. Here's another excellent work ethic by him, hitting the hole, staying north and south, running straight down the field, getting maximum yardage.
Only about a minute 45 left in this first quarter. Then the Grizzlies will have the wind at their back. Third down and 15 as the crowd now getting into it, trying to help their defense. They bring the blitz, and Edwards gets taken down. He gets taken down there by D'Angelo Hunter on the sack, along with Chris Kane. And so the Grizzlies are going to have to punt this one away.
Well, as you mentioned, Portland State coming with a blitz. The receivers for Montana didn't read the blitz, which really gave John no time to dump it off. You have to have your receivers run a dump route when that comes, and they didn't catch it in time, and he had no chance.
Mike Reedy gets the punt off. Rashad Floyd back to take it. He's got some blocks, but he's going the wrong way. And he's getting tracked down, and there's the flag, right? There's two of them. You can kind of take your pick of several on the play, all kinds of blocks from behind. So this one's going to be moved back even further. Nice punt by Mike Reedy going into the wind.
Oh, it was almost humorous. Every official on the field threw their flag except for the referee. What happens on a punt, a lot of times you'll have a return right or return left, and you'll try to get a wall going. So you get outside, but here he goes trying to set up a wall, and the clip comes right at the side. See if we can see it.
Now there's one there.
There's a big one right there. Right there.
There's one there.
And so every official got in the act on that play.
Dan DeCoit and Joel Rosenberg on the play, but this one's going to be moved back even further in Portland State now with the wind at their back. And I would think they want to take advantage of that on this drive, but they're going to be backed up into very poor field position.
Should be around the 5-yard line when he gets done marking it off.
Illegal block in the back. On the receiving team, penalties half the distance to the goal, 1st and 10.
Right there you saw a yellow piece of paper flying and the camera shot. That's not another flag, folks. That's just a yellow piece of paper. It's found its way onto the field. But yeah, now the Portland State Vikings backed up 1st and 10 from their own 8-yard line. So the Grizzlies, a real opportunity here. They give it to the fullback. Absolutely nothing. May have lost half of a yard. 35 on the carry. That's Steve Jakubowski, the fullback. Doesn't get a whole lot of carries.
Yeah, kind of a surprise play, I think, in the fact that he carried the ball, but Montana has people, we talked about them making Portland State throw, and there's a good shot of it right there. They had players everywhere to stop the run.
No gain on the play brings up 2nd down and 10. Portland State backed up at their own 8-yard line. 10 seconds and counting left in this first quarter. Blanchard to throw. Terry Charles gets picked up and absolutely buried by Andy Pedic.
There's a little swing pass that time, almost a screen, and they read it all the way, and as you said, kind of introduced him to the turf.
It's the end of the first quarter with our score 7-7. Andy Pedic and the defense sending a message to Terry Charles.